Hello. I'm going to be talking about a monologue that I did recently, which is Emma's or Dr. Emma Brookner's monologue from The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer. So this is one of my favourite pieces from the monologue series. I just I really enjoy performing it because I think it's really important. I think the play is talking about a really important topic, particularly at the time. It was very, very important. It was important, very like prominent. It really needed to be talked about. It still does need talking about today, of course, but really at the time was very, very important. Really needed talking about. So, The Normal Heart by LarryKramer is about the HIV and AIDS crisis in New York and America in the early 80s. So when people really just did not know what was going on, people would just get contracting the virus, and people were just dying. Like young men were dying at an absolutely astonishing rate, and not enough was being done about it. Research was not being funded, and yeah, it was really, really awful. And this Emma is based on a real doctor, a real physician who was very monumental, very important, and she applied for funding and she treated a lot of patients. And yeah, that is some of the background of the story. And apparently, when they performed this play originally in New York, if more people had died from HIV and AIDS that day, then they would add more numbers onto the wall, and they would sort of write them on in chalk, and they would add it up and on the wall. So when you were in the theatre, you'd see how many people were victims of this crisis, which I think is really poignant. So yeah, I think it's a really good speech. I think it's like, I love the way it's written. It's very passionate, and I really enjoy performing it. So I thought I'd just do a little discussion about kind of some of the background and the rehearsal that went into it. So before you kind of get into the rehearsal room or before filming, there's a lot of work to be done. Learning the lines, obviously, breaking down the text. Talked about a few of these things in my other video, beats, intentions, lots of things like that. And then I've made a whole bunch of notes all over this this speech. So for this piece of text, I didn't have the whole play, so I just had this speech and then a little stage direction here of what of the given circumstances. So where Emma is and kind of situations. So we've got scene 12. Emma sits alone in a spotlight facing a doctor who stands at a distance, perhaps in the audience. She holds a number of files on her lap, or they were placed in a carrier attached to her wheelchair. So we know she's sat alone, we know she's facing one doctor, and they stand at a certain distance, possibly in the audience, so we kind of know roughly what distance that is if this was on stage. Holds a number of files on her lap, so we know that she's got stuff on her lap, placed in a carrier attached to her wheelchair, and we know that she's in a wheelchair. So as I did, usually if I had the script, I would do, I'd read the whole script and then make loads of notes on my character, what my character says about herself, or what things that she says, and about other people, so to form like her opinions of other people and herself, and then what is said about her as well. As I didn't have the script for this one, I just made a bunch of notes on this speech, and then I made a load of notes on the synopsis, so the things that actually happen in the play. So I managed to get hold of that. There is a film of this, and I deliberately didn't watch it because I didn't want to copy the performance or like copy it by accident. So I tend not to watch like film versions, theatre versions of things that I'm going to do. I want to get hold of the text rather than watching them, so that I don't end up copying them. But now that I've done it, I'm definitely going to watch it. Because Julia Roberts does it, and I really need to see that because I think that's going to be so good. Okay, so we sort of do your work at home, There's tons of notes on here. What have I written? Things like, at one point I've written bubbling underneath. And then I've written, she says something towards the end of the speech when she's really trying to get through to this doctor about how important it is that they get funding and how ridiculous it is that they haven't been given it. Not even ridiculous, just like disgusting it is that they haven't been given it. And she says women have been discovered to have it in Africa, where it is clearly transmitted heterosexually. So I've written, try this, will this work? Almost to be like, look, try another angle, will this work? Will saying that women have been found to have it, is that going to convince them a different way? So I've thought about the different angles and different ways that Emma tries to convince the doctor that there should be funding given, and why the hell are you not giving us funding? So a few, like, different notes like that. Then when I got into filming it, my lovely friend helped me. She directs me she directs me every time we do monologues, which is super helpful. First, she came up with the idea to shoot it from above, so I was sitting down anyway, and she came up with the idea to shoot it higher than I was sat, rather than on a level, because then it would make me feel like I needed to look up to somebody, and almost make me feel inferior, and like the doctors felt they were superior to me. So that was really useful. I also I always think about my costume when I'm doing the monologues. So I wore a shirt. I wanted to wear something smarter, something that like you might wear for a meeting, or a doctor would wear for a meeting. I wore my hair up and pulled back quite tight, almost kind of like right down to business. I want to wear this. I kept my makeup really, really simple, really natural, because I imagine Emma's not fussed about makeup. I imagine, like, as a doctor, it's kind of, and in the middle of this epidemic, it's the last thing she's thinking about. So I kept that really simple. And then I was also thinking about the way I'd be sat. So I've got papers on my lap, also sat in a wheelchair. Like, does that affect the way that I sit? Like, I'm going to be sitting up, like, if you've got the back of the chair behind you, you're going to be sitting up, like, straighter. And then having papers on your lap, you've got to keep those papers on your lap. So yeah, thinking about how that affected the way I was sitting. The other thing that I actually asked my friend to do was to say no to me before the monologue, before I started speaking, as if they'd literally, because I don't have the line before for this one, so I asked her to say no, just like no, to kind of emulate the idea of no, we're not going to give you the funding, to kind of spur me on into the speech. Another piece of direction that my friend suggested, which was really, really helpful, was imagining that one of the patients that I'd been treating was lying in the room with me, and that they'd just died. So it kind of keeps the presence of those patients like right with you. And I added something on top of that, which a lot of people do. I think they use things from their own lives. So I imagined that it was a close friend of mine, and I kind of imagined them out and about and having fun, and then imagined what it would be like if they were in this bed and incredibly ill, and then I had to treat them, and they died of this virus. So that kind of got me to that place of like how important this is to Emma, and how personal this is to her, because she's treating these patients daily. So so those are some of the things that we did for that speech in particular. So that's kind of some of the background stuff that we did, and this is all stuff that kind of helps to get to that final performance. There's loads of stuff to do. There's loads of stuff to think about. There are loads of things that you can do to help you get to that final performance. So it's not just like I'm sure for some people it's like, camera on, but like there's lots of stuff that actors do to get to that final piece. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about a few of my honourable monologues as well, and hopefully putting some more up soon. Thank you for watching. Or maybe like tell me about what like interesting pieces of direction you've had, or what pieces of direction you've heard of people having to get them to that final performance. That'd be super interesting. Yeah, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and speak to you soon. Bye.